Hi everyone, my name is Kartik and my channel is about mental models. I hope you're enjoying my videos. If you are, then please subscribe to my channel, and as always, please like and share this video with everyone you know. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the margin of safety mental model. Margin of safety can be applied in many different walks of life. It is the buffer that protects you from things going wrong. An example is, let's say you have a knife. You have a knife and the sheath that goes around the knife, so you've got a sheath. That sheath is like your margin of safety. Without the sheath, you could cut yourself quite easily, and so that protects you from getting cut. Another example is, let's say you have an appointment at 10 a.m. You know that it will take you 30 minutes to get to your appointment. But instead of sort of leaving at 9:30, you decide to leave at 9:15. These 15 minutes, or this extra 15 minutes, this is your margin of safety. This extra 15 minutes is your margin of safety. Without it, you could arrive late, giving you less time for your meeting, or worse still, you could have your meeting cancelled for arriving late by a few minutes. But margin of safety is not free. And by free, I don't simply mean looking at it from a monetary perspective. Let's take the case of leaving at 9:15. You may think that if you arrive early, so you leave at 9:15, it takes half an hour, you arrive at 9:45. Let's say if you arrive early, which is before 10 o'clock, and you can wait for your appointment time, and that is all well. There are no potential downsides. So what am I talking about? But this is not entirely true. By leaving at 9:15 versus, say, 9:30, the cost of margin of safety is 15 minutes of time. That's your cost. And so one has to ask themselves if this cost is worth it. Or maybe you could have left at, say, 9:20, and then the cost would only be 10 minutes margin of safety. And so you have to sort of work out in your mind if 15 minutes is a reasonable cost, or is 10 minutes a reasonable cost, 15 versus 10. And that's your choice. You need to decide that. Let's take another example. Let's take train. Let's take another example. It takes me 10 minutes to walk to the train station, and my train leaves at 7 p.m. So the obvious thing to do with this would probably be to leave at 6:50 p.m. So it takes me 10 minutes, I get to my train station, fantastic. Don't really need a margin of safety. It's not really an important appointment. But you might think that actually, leaving exactly on time is actually cutting it too fine, and maybe you should say, leave at 6:49 p.m. You just have 1 minute. It's not really any margin of safety. There's not much cost to it, but it just gives you a little bit of buffer, and that's, it's not costing you too much. Let me now add some detail. Let's say if I miss my train at 7 p.m, the next train that I could catch would be 7:30 p.m. So if I miss my 7 p.m. train, I can't catch anything until 7:30. What does this do to my margin of safety? Well, most likely you'd probably want to add a few more minutes on. So instead of leaving at 6:49, you leave at 6:45. So you have 5 minutes margin of safety, just to be sure that you get to the station before the train leaves, to avoid waiting for another half an hour. So margin of safety, the point I'm making with this example is that margin of safety is also dependent on the specific circumstance and the detail. Now, these examples are all very basic, and margin of safety becomes more important where there is risk and uncertainty. So let's say I need to present a piece of work which is consolidated from the work of 7 other teams. So 7 other teams provide me their output, that becomes my input. I need to consolidate it and present it. The presentation is required at the end of the month, which is in 30 days' time. And let's say it takes me 1 day to create the presentation deck. After having received everything from the 7 teams, it takes me 1 day to sort of put everything together. So that means I have 30 days to do this. I need 1 day to do my presentation deck. So that mathematically gives me 29 days to play with. I can give the other teams to provide their information to me. So the one thing I need to take into account, or the key thing I need to take into account, is am I sure that I'm going to receive the information from all 7 teams if I give them 29 days? Because if I'm unsure, in other words, I don't know for sure that if I give 29 days to 7 teams, if they will deliver to me their output on time. If they are late, then that will mean I won't be able to do my presentation. I won't be able to sort of do my presentation deck. I won't be able to give my presentation on day 30. This could negatively impact my credibility and my performance rating. And so if I'm unsure, because let's say if I give them 29 days, I have no margin of safety, I have no buffer. If something goes wrong on their side, that doesn't allow me any time to make any changes or rejig anything on my side. It's all out of my control. But this is sort of getting this time frame, this risk will only crystallize when I'm 1 day away from, or 2 days away from the presentation, and it would be too late to do anything, to bring anything into my control. At the beginning, 30 days away, things are still in my control. And so because of this sort of, I've got 29 days, so should I give 29 days? That question, people might forget, they might say, oh, 29 days is a long time, I've got other urgent stuff, I'll deprioritize. Some people may provide, but it'll be the wrong information, they need to redo the work, and then it gets lost in translation. A lot of things can happen because the time frame is quite long. So there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of risk. Because of this, I should, is the name of the video today, I should build in a margin of safety. Let's say 2 weeks as margin of safety. So margin of safety is 2 weeks. This means I give the teams 16 days to respond, leaving me with 14 days for any delays, any problems, and to turn around the presentation as well, the output into a presentation deck. Now, 14 days is margin of safety. Now I have to be careful because remember, margin of safety is not free. If I apply a bigger margin of safety, let's say the margin of safety is now 21 days, let's say it's 3 weeks. That means I'm giving 7 teams 8 days to be able to deliver, approximately 8 days. Here I'm sort of giving them about 15 days to deliver. Here I'm giving them 8 days to deliver. 15 plus 14 gives me my sort of 29. 8 plus 21 gives me my 29. That's how I'm sort of working it out. So Margin of safety of 2 weeks gives them 15 days. Margin of safety of 21 days gives them 8 days to deliver. Now, 7 teams may not be able to deliver in 8 days their output. And so this time frame, this one here, this time frame may also be seen as being unreasonable. And if I give such a short time frame and build in a longer margin of safety or a bigger margin of safety, it might hurt my relationships with the teams. And so this is where the margin of safety is not free component comes in. So if I do that and I say, no, you've only got 8 days to the 7 teams, you have to do this, yeah, and I don't, I make something up or I don't give a very good response. I'm just like, it's a lot of work. I need to do this, blah, blah. I make something up. I just give them 8 days. This will mean that in future, where there are other deliverables that the teams will that will need to provide me, they'll be probably less likely to meet them, because chances are they might not be able to meet the 8 days. They will go over by a few days. I will start chasing, and then they will realize that, hang on, we could have had this extra time anyway, and it would have been less anxiety for us, and I could have done my work, or they could have seen that I could have done my work. And so I was just giving them unnecessarily a short time frame, and I will get found out. And so if the teams fail to deliver, then yes, the margin of safety would come into effect, but the margin of safety should be treated as a buffer or protection for uncertainty rather than being baked into the deliverable time frame, which is what I'm sort of doing here. I'm just sort of putting everything into a margin of safety rather than just giving a very short period of time. I could just say you've got 1 day to do everything and give myself 29 days. That would be even more unreasonable. And so one needs to get to a balance where it's not unreasonable, but you are not exposing yourself unnecessarily to the risk. And if the risk were to crystallize, you would be hurting yourself. So you need to get that balance right. And so, as I said, margin of safety should be seen as a buffer to protect you rather than to bake it into the deliverable. Because margin of safety, or building in margin of safety into a piece of work, is necessary because it bridges that gap of uncertainty. It shouldn't be something that is the deliverable. It's seen to be, or should be used as a bridge for the gap of uncertainty, to bridge the gap of uncertainty. Now, that means you can get this wrong. It's quite easy to get this wrong. But if you're able to master the margin of safety and be able to think accurately at how much buffer you need, your cost will be as minimal. You have to think in terms of cost. Your cost will be as minimal as can be, and you'll be able to navigate the uncertainties of life with greater confidence. Now, you might be thinking, all I'm saying is just about being cautious, and there is no downside to being cautious. This is definitely indeed a good thing, and yes, it's a good thing to be mindful of uncertainties and risks. So it's good to be cautious, of course, but not to the point of where you are overcompensating so much that it affects other areas. Going back to my sort of appointment example, if instead of leaving at 9:15, I actually leave at 8:15, giving me nearly 2 hours, then I could have, if I arrive early, very early, I could have used some of that time of nearly 2 hours to do some other work. So I'm not really, let's say, I'm being cautious about not being late for my appointment, so I'm definitely minimizing that risk or reducing that risk completely by leaving so early. But I'm taking away time, because time is a finite resource. I'm taking away time from other work that I could have done. And so I'm not hurting myself for this appointment that I will be able to meet, but I'm hurting myself on my other deliverables or my other work that I could have done. looking at the train station, if I reach the train station, not about leaving, but if I reach the train station at 6:39 p.m. and my train is of course leaving at 7 p.m. then again I am waiting around unnecessarily or needlessly at the train station, which is unproductive, and that time, that wait time, I could have used more wisely elsewhere. Again, time is a finite resource. Margin of safety can and does mean being cautious, and in the longer term it does ensure success and stability, but only if you have mastered it, only if you have invested time in it to master it, or it won't help. You'll just hurt yourself in other ways. You'll just be overcautious or be overcompensating, and that doesn't work, because you can't just think about one item and sort of minimize the risk on that one item. You've got to think about everything as a sort of a whole. It's not about overcompensating for one thing, unless it does demand that, okay, failure on this is completely game over, but that is rarely the case. And so you have to be able to master this, and you can only master it if you invest the time in it. So if you feel that you lack the practice, you can start now by thinking consciously of the margin of safety and working on smaller items that are not critical to master it, so that in the future, when it really does count, you absolutely nail it. You're not overcompensating. You think about the cost of all of the different deliverables, plus minimizing the risks on all of them. It's not an exact science. It's not an exact art either. It's about the look and feel, as I said, scenarios, circumstances, importance, risk, uncertainty. It all plays into the factor, and you can only really master it if you keep on practicing at it. And if you do, when it really counts in the future, you will absolutely nail it. You can get better at this. And so there you have it, the margin of safety mental model. And that's all for this video. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then please check out my other videos flashing on screen now. I'm sure you will like them too. And I will see you in the next video with another mental model. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.